109, we've been waiting on it forever. Apparently, I guessed right because it was like GUI releases to get 14 days without any other updates on the latest build. It needs to be, I think, like a month or two of since the last patch. I wasn't too confident that it was going to be DLC, but I figured maybe, but like it would be a stretch to get this thing out before. For like the other patches, like for example, like DLC for Dark Souls 3, or I think Dark Souls 2's DLC came out really quick, but I think it was kind of planned on the way, like just the entire way through. And I think Elden Ring is just too big to finish this thing within a year. So it's like figure something out within the end of the fiscal year. And like I figured that was at least guaranteed, right? To get something out, and I couldn't figure out whether or not it would be like, okay, follow whatever idea Capcom has to release it at the end of the week, which seems like ludicrous because you want to have a couple days to like emergency everyone, all hands on deck, and not just necessarily, hopefully, not be stuck on the weekend with like, your emergency crew to fix stuff. So the bullet point feature, which I personally I don't like, I don't know if I can care too much about.
I think like that's very cool. I feel like not everyone's going to be able to really like experience that. Like isn't the minimum requirement to be able to use ray tracing like a 3070 now?
I thought it was like I think they listed the requirements for this somewhere, like at the very, very bottom.
I think that was the minimum to get the ray tracing on.
So it's like
3070.
Yeah, 3060 Ti as a minimum, and then they recommend 3070 and what I mean. I don't know AMD's cards or CPUs nowadays, but whatever equivalent, I guess. I think I understand what they're doing. It's just like, it's a big marketing feature that you can, it's a good bullet point. It's like nobody can run this. People can barely run the game at all.
Yeah, I remember when we were working on Ramen, the indie title I was on a couple years ago, we would always ask people to bring in like to try it on their computers with the worst cards they had. And I remember Smashley was like she had like a 1060 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so like we made sure that like I think maybe games now they're releasing and kind of forgetting that really amazing graphics are cool. Most people can't afford to be able to run them.
Kind of wondering how far down some of the stuff can even be. Like, I mean, Elden Ring is just so CPU intensive. Like, what can you do to like you can't change a setting to make that not just run like garbage. But I'm curious what people think about the performance on like PS4 and Xbox One. Like the network test on Xbox One, which is the only thing I had at the time that could even like that run the game had the network test available. It was okay. It was like 30ish. It was choppy. It's not a satisfying experience for a Souls game. I think the only games that I think were okay, like tolerable at 30, might have been like Dark Souls 1-ish. Before things got complicated and especially before things got quick with like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be a dick and be like, oh my god, ray tracing, what assholes, like how dare they give us beautiful graphics, right? But now the new hotness is lumen lighting and like lumen ray tracing in UE5, and then nanite is basically making tri-counts not a thing. So I almost wonder if it probably would have just been better for them to like maybe do a UE5 port or something. But if that's probably a really fucking big ask.
Well, that's
a huge
that's
ask.
Basically saying like the majority of the work to make the game has to be done over again. There's no
yeah.
simple solution for that, I don't think.
But there's also studios like this in the way that there's art studios that just they don't publish. They're just literally hired to make assets for games, and that's it. And everything else is like not up to them. Yeah. There's studios where you just hire them to do ports.
That's true, yeah. And I'm curious, like, how much of that is just making the engine run on?
So much fucking money. They have the money, if they so wanted to.
I wish I could see more of their code base to really understand, to even have a glimpse of, like, what they could even do with that. I guess it's part of it's, like, the toolkit they're used to, like, whatever in-house tools that they're using, whatever workflow that they have already is good enough for them. And even though I'm not, like...
No, the game's shipped. The game is shipped.
It ships?
It's shipped. It works. If it's shipped, it works, great. Right?
Yeah, and for better or for worse, it conforms to like it's not at least super far ahead in terms of system requirements of everybody else. It's everybody's kind of targeting some of the same hardware. So I think in terms of like the huge amount of dev hours that they would need to make that happen, probably not a significant payoff. But I think like I would like for them to make the kind of overhaul that I think that they were planning to do with Dark Souls 2. That I guess I don't know how much of that was salvageable. If you've seen like Illusory Walls videos, like not only content wise, but as far as I understand, like tech wise, I think it was like a giant major separate fork of the engine, and that's why a lot of people say basically like it doesn't behave like the other games because it's still probably like Dark Souls 1 at its core, but they spent a lot of time trying to revamp things, and I don't know where that work is. I don't know how much of that still persists, but you see bugs from the previous games still there that Dark Souls 2, as far as I know, didn't have. But at the very least, though, I think they need to figure out, like, okay, like these requirements for the audience are, I mean, ray tracing, sure, it's going to run the garbage and everything, at least for now. Just in order to get the game to run, it was choppy on my system, and my system previously was from 2014.
No, I have 64 gigs of RAM, and I have a 3080 Ti, and I still can't get like buttery smooth play on Elden Ring. I still can't.
In my case, it turned out to be basically two major factors. I'd imagine if I switched over to a 1080 right now, like if I put my old card back in, I'd probably still have okay performance. And I think most of it is probably just CPU and the speed of my hard drives. So right now I'm using Evo, I think 970 Gen 3 drives, and I'm using an i9 12900K or KF. It's running extremely smooth, like no stuttering. Like it's sick. I'm sitting at 60 because I just couldn't care less about going further. I figure once I start targeting like 144 hertz or whatever, then I'll be super spoiled and never be able to be satisfied, and I might as well just like keep it low, be comfortable, and then when the hardware is like another generation forward, I'll make the jump.
Somebody posted a tweet here of like the difference.
Oh, I heard about that. Somebody was saying that you could barely tell for the ray tracing.
Kind of. So you can see it where I think this shines is, and I think people aren't really like picking up on it too much, is how it reacts between billboards, like foliage billboards.
Okay, so is it like
because you have to think that there's the transparency maps on each of the bushes cards, and I think it's behaving differently in between the translucency on those cards.
I could see that. But like
on other stuff, you're not seeing too much of a difference.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Looks pretty Elden Ring to me.
So the second, you're right with the shadows.
So the building, you see a little bit of ambient occlusion being boosted and more accurate.
Looks like it's like brighter. Oh, because you're like basically getting more light into crevices and stuff.
Yes.
I mean, the performance apparently is really bad, but I wasn't sure I would see this level of granularity on the lighting in Elden Ring or any Souls game for a long time. But this is like, I mean, this stuff is distinct. I mean, the rest of the game, like, sort of not so much. I mean, some stuff, like some of the shadowing on the armor is distinct. Some of the stuff looks a little strange, like behind the door.
I feel like you play like Naughty Dog games to get into like the granularity of their art. You play like Sony Santa Monica games because they're like basically like cinematic quality games, and like every screenshot is like you can see every port. Like you come to expect that from those, and they really sell that. But like from games,
I mean, I think there's some.
I think they look good, but it's just they've never been about that.
They're running more on the art style rather than like the technical prowess.
They do what they need to get a mood across. They focus on hitting that, and that's it.
I don't think they have the technical prowess to take it really far and have it not run like garbage anyways. All right, let's go to the meat. Let's go to the PvP meat at this point. Let's see what we got.
Now this is where you're gonna probably have to explain stuff to me, because I started getting into PvP, and then I started understanding the systems in DS3, and then it sounds like they completely changed it in Elden Ring. Like the poise system and everything is different. So you're gonna have to explain some of this to me.
So adjustments in this section do not affect single player. So that's part of the same tweaks that they've been able to do earlier. As what was it, 108 that they did that? Yeah. So basically, these are modifiers that are only like player damage.
So they only affect invaders.
They only affect
arenas?
A player attacking another player in some way. So they have these, I can't remember exactly what they're called, but they're basically modifiers that say, 25% more poise damage or 20% less sound effect damage, but only if it's affecting another player. Otherwise, like if you're in PvE. So
I didn't know they had like two systems. I thought it was all just one.
The base numbers are the same. Carrion Slicer is 180 magic AR at base, so before sorcery scaling takes in, so before your intelligence modifies your staff, but in PvP it's been reduced to 140.
Angle. Okay, can you explain to me how these, like, I understand it's like hitboxes connecting. Is there like a cone that they just narrow?
I don't think it's a cone. I think it's my guess, and somebody who knows how a lot of the stuff works is going to have to clarify. It's just the angle that you can adjust from where you started, as far as I understand, I think. So the example that I think is the clearest and easiest to understand is like Crystal Barrage will go something like 120 degrees plus. Like you basically can go left or right, and the total you can go is like 120-ish, maybe like a little bit higher than that. So you can turn a little bit to the side, but you can't go the entire way backwards. So you can't like cast it and then immediately snap backwards. Or that basically means that this thing should have way more ability to, even if somebody like, they have to be close to you to even grab with this thing, you're more easily able to kind of turn and grab somebody. They say incantation power, and I'm guessing this is just the attack rating, but they could also just mean the build-up too. I'm assuming it's attack rating though. Along the same lines, we see Lifesteal Fist has also been so the range as well has also been buffed. Somebody hit me with this once. It wasn't that strong. We'll see how it is now. I don't know what the exact numbers are going to be just yet.
I think I saw Dashing Saint. I was watching one of his streams and he got grabbed by somebody with it. And he wasn't even mad. He was cheering because he thought it was so cool that he got grabbed with it.
I mean, a lot of this, like bringing up a lot of the stuff that's normally pretty garbage is great, especially some of the weird stuff, because Lifesteal Fist is basically just a Dark Hands attack, and everybody's been rooting for that thing. It's been a joke attack for the longest time, and having the stuff buffed into being worthwhile for once is actually kind of nice.
Decrease the power of two-handing jumping attacks. I hate it.
I'm hoping
that's my strat.
Please don't be two-handed. Like, please be just the dual-wielded instead. This hasn't been clarified, but I'm sure the data mine stuff's going to be updated pretty soon. If not, well, to be fair, more often than not, these things were updated before I'm even ready to look, so it's probably already... the spreadsheets are probably updated. Decrease the power of heavy running attacks to fists and claw weapon types. My understanding is that they were overtuned in the last version. Like, whenever they last updated it, it was a bit much.
I believe that, because the few times I've been invaded so far with somebody with, like, fist weapons, it's like, the second they got within range, it felt like it was just, like, game over, because they could just spam and, like, proc really easy whatever they had. My
impression of these is, especially because they're faster now, it's just that if somebody's on top of you and they know what they're doing, and if you don't have anything to swat them off, and you're kind of screwed. And most of the time, you're not going to have the same kind of damage with something as fast as those weapons. All right, what do we got next?
Founding Reign of Stars.
Okay, yeah, this is the one that get called out. This is the one that get called out earlier. So I had put out these tweets and Twitch clips showing, like, I finally figured it out. I finally found the use case for this damn spell. It was right under my nose the entire time, because I'm the person who discovered how broken Soul Shower was in Dark Souls 2, and the same basic principle applied. It has a small amount of tracking, but you would never notice it unless you are far above the target. And for Soul Shower, it was like a room and a half-ish, two rooms or so of height. Projectiles coming down onto the target would all coalesce. It would just be like, it wouldn't be like they're just peppering the area. It's like, this is laser focus on a single target, and you just can't really roll Soul Shower if you keep spamming it. But you need to be like way above the target. Founding Rain has the same behavior, but you need to be a little bit further above the target. That's a huge requirement for this thing to be good, and it's trash otherwise. I don't know why would you nerf this thing? So decrease the spell enhancement effect on Terra Magica. In PvP, it's one of those things where I find it hard to justify standing in a spot and having like 3 seconds if you leave the spot. If even that, it's like it wears off very quickly. Maybe people like there's got to be something people are getting out of this.
It's just the floor AOE that you stand in it and then like you do better magic.
Yeah, like the sigil that's like 6 foot diameter or maybe bigger, a little bit bigger, like 10-ish. You get a benefit out of it, but as an invader versus potentially 3 other people, why would you want to stand in that spot? It's like saying, "Please kill me." Like, I'll wait here.
Somebody who's like just getting started, like a very casual player. Because you have to remember, you're coming from the mindset of somebody who understands these systems and like gets it down. This might be really effective against like somebody who's low level and like sees that on the ground. They're like, "Oh my God, I can't touch that." And then it just gives the person like an opportunity to like drink or something because the other person doesn't realize they can just use like some kind of projectile or their own spell.
Considering how reasonably out of the way the spell is, I could see that.
They nerfed my Wave of Gold spell.
Yeah. So this is the big one that people complain about a lot.
Oh, that was okay, but like I could barely land it. But when I did, it was really cool because they deserve to be hit by it. If you can't just roll it,
it's surprisingly difficult to roll. The hitbox is really kind of ambiguous. At least it's like it's hard to tell exactly where you need to roll, and anything slow like that. It's difficult to account for lag as well. So sometimes you'll get hit, and it's nowhere near you visually. What do we got here? Decrease the effectiveness of the Determination and Royal Knight's Resolve skills. I don't think Determination was that strong, but Royal Knight's Resolve was pretty popular.
I've heard that Royal Knight's Resolve is like OP for some
I mean,
builds.
I think it's like what 80? Is it still 80%? Like 80% increased AR per weapon.
See, that's nasty. Maybe it did need. Maybe it did need a decrease.
Contagious. Oh no. Well, I mean,
never used the jellyfish shield.
I get it. I don't remember what the boost was on Contagious Fury, but I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah, you had to equip them. You had to use both of the shields in like what reverse order. I think the boost was really big because all of the big like damage monster stuff. I guess it was what the I don't know if speedrunners can use it because I don't know how consistently you can get one. Like the damage boost is good, and I think that's probably what they're trying to do right now. Like it looks like all of this kind of looks like they're trying to reduce peak damage. So you see. I mean, I don't want to go through the rest of these as well, but you see like Terra Magica, you see Termination, Real Nice Resolve, all of the cases where it's like a damage buff that can either peak on its own, like Real Nice Resolve, or something that can stack multiplicatively with everything else. These are all getting some manner of nerfs.
I forgot what Claw Talisman does for you. Is that the one that
Claw Talisman? I think is the jump attack one. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, jump attack's got another massive nerf, which is excellent because please let's have another. Like this is not a lot of what you would see in these games is like in the past it was like our two-headed R1 souls, and this game feels like jump attack souls.
I feel attacked.
Well, no, I mean like if you're using a two-handed colossal weapon jump attack, that's not nearly a problem. It's the ones that are a problem are like dual twin blade, dual curve sword jump attacks, which stack with a lot of this other stuff, or dual colossal weapon, both with Royal Knight's Resolve jump attacks.
What's the Lord of Blood's Exaltation Talisman?
I can't remember exactly where you get this. So basically, whenever you proc bleed, it just gives you a buff. It's like the big,
okay.
All right,
yeah,
let me stack this along with Varay's Mask, which is right over here. So both of these are basically doing the same thing. It's like whenever bleed procs, anybody gets bled out in the area, you get a buff for a while. Basically, you have multiple different nerfs all together, at least 4 that I can tell without even thinking about it too much. No, 5. 5 reductions to jumping attack. The jumping attack span with paired weapons. Okay, so increase the damage buff granted by the magic shrouding, flame shrouding, lightning shrouding, and holy shrouding cracked here. This is another case where I think what I was describing earlier was probably correct, where all of these things that can stack together. So magic shrouding tier plus Terra Magica. You've got 3 separate jumping attack nerfs, 2 separate blood nerfs, and most of these can be combined. You're nerfing stuff that's multiplicative, so you want to start with smaller numbers for the nerfs because all of those combine into a pretty significant nerf. I mean, this is going to probably dramatically change the PvP landscape. You won't see these giant chunky hits anymore.
Down with that.
And an invincibility window when it's respawning in the Coliseum. I'd appreciate
it's like
that
a given.
if I ever got into the Coliseum and got a match going.
I did. And it's like people summon in and they're not invincible, but after a couple seconds, there's like an explosion, right?
Oh, wait.
There's something that punishes you for trying to get them.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you could attack him right away like that, though. I thought they had something besides the explosion. But no, I guess they just added this.
The explosion it was like really quick, so it wasn't worth it.
Okay. Increase the scaling of the following attributes when infusing weapons with certain ashes of war. This one I heard about. I didn't catch it being a significant amount. Like it was like 175 to 180 or something like that at plus 15. So I'm guessing this is going to be like, this is probably the base scaling values per upgrade level or something. I don't think this is the curves. They have a value that says like the total amount with 99 in all stats, or 99 and the scaling stats equates to some amount of the base damage of the weapon. And then they have another one that says what percentage of that value do you get based on how many stats you have. But basically, I think this is just the base scaling values and not adjusting the scaling path curves. My thought is that like my initial thought was like it's probably not super significant, but then I was thinking, well, if they're reducing a lot of the peak damage from like let's say the crystal tiers, all the shrouding crystal tiers, if they're reducing the peaks for jumping attacks and Lord of Blood Exaltation, and then you have the other cases where you get the buffs from using a jump attack, then I'm assuming like a chunk of this is just they've nerfed those for two reasons. One, to reduce peaks, and two, to make way for this, where they buffed some stuff up at higher levels, and now elemental weapons are a bit more worth using. So increase the attribute scaling of the following weapon types. Colossus, hold on a sec.
So the big weapons are all stronger now?
They just say increase the attribute scaling of the following weapons. So they're not. I don't think they're being specific at all. I think they're just saying everything gets just a big scaling buff for just dumping in whatever, doesn't matter what infusion or anything. So colossal swords, great axe, regular hammers, flails, which they still need. I don't know where they are now, but they've needed so much help, and they've been getting bits and bits here and there.
They mention them later.
I think somebody mentioned one weapon in particular got super buffed, and that would have been.
I think Goldie was saying that, was it the flail? I think Goldie said something to the effect that like the flail now will break 130 poise.
Oh, really? Are they doing 187 on the flails?
It was 130 or 133. It was one of those two numbers.
Really? Not 137, because the 137 is sort of like the common value that FromSoft has been using as of like 108 or whatever, where it's like this just breaks all poise. Like any player takes a hit from this, and even with the Bulgo talisman, I think it's just they're guaranteed. Maybe you know what it was? So then it would have been it's 30%, and then the 100 from the Bulgoats. So whoever had mentioned it then probably said that's what it's beating. So you can't it'll beat 130, but the value internally is probably still 137. It's like it might be 137 in some small amount. They use that everywhere. So they use that for like Greatsword R1s. They use that for charged magic lint blade. I think they use that for magic carrying Greatsword. I wonder if a one-handed flail R1 is 137, then I'm scared. But I'm also clapping though, because like they need it. Increase the speed, range, and recovery time of some attacks for the following weapon types: Great Hammer, Great Axe, Greatsword, Curved Greatsword. I wonder which. Does anybody know which attacks? I'm gonna have to start experimenting with the big weapons again, because these were normally these are trash because they're so hard to use in PvP because anybody who's paying any attention at all is just gonna roll it immediately, especially if you're invading, where it's like everybody.
That's such a bummer because they're always the coolest looking ones, right? And they're like, I want the cool ones to be viable.
Well, yeah, I mean, swinging around, a random like boat anchor or a giant chunk of like a pillar from a piece of runes is cool. They gotta back it up with like being able to hit. And in the meantime, it's like, the property of this is good is like I can swing it down and do a giant shockwave, or I can hold it up and like the Falling Star Beast Jaw. You have basically the like colossal weapon Thunderstorm, and it's just like, damn, That's all it's got. Oh, here's the flail stuff. Okay. Increase speed of some attacks, reduce attack recovery time, increase poise when using two-handed attacks. Okay. That's what probably was being, that's the 137, I bet. These are going to be really good now. Wait, what? Running attacks faster? Hold on. Increase running attack speed and reduce the attack recovery time for the following weapon types. To be fair for some of these, considering how poise works and where their AR is, katanas, their running attacks are not scary. I'm more so worried about halberds, which is, I don't know why this is here.
Yeah, unless I felt like they were hanging in there.
Well, I mean, they're super nasty under the right circumstances, especially if you're like an invader who has two other people trying to kill you, and you got one with a halberd just sitting there poking over and over again. Increase the first attack speed for the following weapon types: straight sword, curved sword, whip. Straight swords, I felt like were fine for the regular R1s. They didn't like excel, and people weren't relying on them. Like they weren't the notorious weapons people were just like crushing everybody with. Curved swords, I almost kind of wonder if they're trying to kind of make up for nerfing paired weapons and stuff. Because like how often do you see somebody like walk up to you and then hit R1 with a curved sword? And whips were like L1, L1, L1. So
basically,
I don't think I have a problem with this. I think, especially when you consider that it's going to start buffing weapons that need a lot of help, like the Lazuli Gladstone Sword, hopefully the Sword of Night and Flame. Increase speed of guard counters for the following weapon types: Straight Sword, Great Sword, Colossal, Curve. Is there anything they didn't do yet? Twin Blade, Axe, Great Axe, Flail, Great Hammer, Spear. What weapon class is not here? Lances. Oh, okay, yeah.
Or does Lance fall under Spear?
No, that's Great Spear, yeah. I don't see any regular weapon type not listed. Daggers maybe?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, daggers and what, fist weapons?
Daggers, no speed increase for daggers, and
I think fist weapons.
Yeah, no claws.
Claws, yeah. Guard counters are somewhat criminally underused, so cool. Plus, they, not only in PvP do you never see them unless somebody's new and doesn't know what they're doing. But then on the other hand, in PvE, most people are relying on charge attacks, jump attacks, every other random thing instead. So this is good. So this is from Maelstrom, and this is, I think this is guard counter buffs. Oh, that's pretty good. So basically, like it does more damage, and it has usually like much higher poise damage. I think that even got buffed recently too. All right, let me go grab the other video. Curved greatsword animation is fed up. Let's see. This is just everything. Okay, so the running attacks seem much faster. I don't really use curved greatswords, because they're, well, okay, yeah, this is like remarkably faster.
Yeah, it feels quicker.
Yeah, I would have said.
Which honestly, with curved swords, it should feel really like.
It's kind of scary, actually. I want to use a curved greatsword in an invasion soon. Like normally, I would just not bother. They're just so slow. Reduce the attack recovery for whip weapons. So I guess this is just probably another R1 thing.
Increase the damage of claw weapons, dude. I'm happy about that. I like the claws.
Yeah, claws you never see. Well, maybe if you did, you knew it was an easy, like it was like a free win. Unless they were like doing like the big jump attack spam stuff.
I believe the claw meta will be there someday. Increased damage of claw weapons, added holy damage, and faith scaling to the Great Club.
Okay, so
I got about 5 more minutes, Jerp, and then I gotta get on.
Okay, I gotta hurry up then. So holy damage and faith scaling to the Great Club. I'm not surprised, because the lore, like the item description, had basically called it out. The item description is like, this thing is a piece of an earth tree branch or something like that, and so this makes sense. Plus, I think you couldn't apply Ashes of War to it. I think it was like you're always stuck with Golden Land. Increased damage negation when blocking holy damage, and decreased damage negation when blocking damage from other affinities. It seems like across like every shield, then I guess you're more easily able to block holy, and I don't know if holy was ever a problem when blocking it, but it sounds like in this case, then
not that I ever heard of, or at least not especially so.
Maybe they're targeting people using the Cypher Pata, and either that or
I've never heard someone be like, "Oh fuck, holy damage with my shield. I hate it."
Increased
effectiveness of the Twin Blade Talisman. So
yeah, that's the one for finishing an attack combo.
Chain attacks. Yeah.
I never see a case where anybody would ever benefit from this in PvP.
I don't have it equipped ever.
In PvE, on the other hand,
no, I can see that being useful.
Yeah, hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's like a big number.
Lightly reduced rolling travel distance. That's good. I like that, because I feel like fast rolling can get kind of wacky, especially in PvE boss fights.
Well, light rolls in PvP were like get regular complaints from players. I never saw it as that big of an issue, but I think what might end up happening in the future is that everyone's going to start leaning more towards armor that has higher elemental negation anyways, because a lot of that stuff got buffed, and a lot of the cases where you can get one shot by all these like super stacking, jump attack, Lord of Blood Exaltation, all the other buffs like that, Royal Knight's Resolve, all that stuff got reduced, and I think now there's incentives now to say, I'm going to unequip way lighter stuff, going to have more resistance to elemental stuff, and I don't have to worry as much about getting just like one shot, and I don't need to stack as much negation as I can get. I can start focusing my attention elsewhere. Increase the hitbox size for some attacks of the following weapon types: thrusting sword, heavy thrusting sword, spear, great spear, halberd. They say some attacks. I thought it was only running attacks. So I thought that was what people were saying earlier. So this is really good then. This means that even if they did speed up the halberds, maybe they're still harder to hit with, or maybe like being chased down by somebody isn't just a death sentence of just like, I can't find time to heal. I'm being chased by like one person with a random thrusting weapon or thrusting attacks, and the other two players are basically sitting there, with Moonveil and any other range thing, and just destroying me in an invasion. This might mean that there's a bit more room to escape. All right, did you say that you had to go after the section you were in?
I gotta go. I usually stream at 7. But thank you for having me, Jerp. I feel like I learned a lot.
It's good having you here. So Lifesteal Fist, increased target grab range. I think that was mentioned earlier. But this is like now on the radar of like, I need to watch out for this because maybe it's really good now. Surge of Faith, increased projectile generation speed. Does anybody know what this is? The cranial vessel candle stand. This is the big, this is like portable. It's like Elmer's Fury for weapon skill almost. Good. I've never seen it used. That might say enough as it is. Flame Spin. The only reason why I have any idea what this is because it says increased guard speed and blocking amount of the skill. So this is basically the Great Shield. The Great Shield cannon, the big giant, like the giant skull cannon shield. Adjusted the angle of the fireball, so maybe it hits more consistently at a distance now. Also, they say blocking amount. Maybe they mean you have like more base, what would you say, like a higher motion value for the guard boost? Or maybe it just lasts longer or something? Tongues of Fire, I believe, is the flamethrower version of that. Can't remember what the name of the shield was. Increase the guard speed and blocking amount of the skill. Great Oracular Bubble. So it's the skill version, which is a bummer because the spell version, both of the bubble spells need a buff. Increase projectile generation speed and reduce the recovery time. Bite for bite. Reduce the time before rolling as possible after using the skill. Excellent. I could see wanting a bigger buff for this thing, but I think I've seen people tinkering with this now. Like, I want to make this good. I want to have a reason to use it because it's cool. Shriek of... Is it Milos? Milos? Increased close range poise damage. I don't know if this ever did any damage, but, you know... And I don't see anybody really use it, but I heard it's great. The sort of like war cry from the sword that Dung Eater uses. I'm looking forward to seeing it used. Hopefully it'll inspire me to try a build around it. Pure Call Ritual. I've used this a bunch. This is an amazing skill, except for at very low level. Increased projectile generation speed. Does it finish sooner, or does it just generate more, I wonder? This thing was already good. I'm looking forward to using it more, but I'm concerned it might be too strong. Cursed Blood Slash. So that's Morgoth's weapon. Increase projectile generation speed and reduce the recovery time. Projectile? Isn't it just... I don't think it's not a projectile. It's more like a lingering slice, isn't it? I want to see more of this, and in fact, considering curved greatswords have been buffed as well, like maybe these are combined all into a very nice change. Goldbreaker. What was Goldbreaker? Goldbreaker. Oh, no, America's Hammer, right? This is America's Hammer's skill. Reduce the recovery time. I think I saw somebody trying to use it once, I think, and just got completely dunked. Like, because you're just stuck. You're stuck on the ground, and everyone could just dogpile you at that point. So I Command Thee Kneel is the Godric's Axe thing. You slam it down, you make a bunch of shockwaves, increase attack generation speed. I think I have a small amount of concern with this because I see this used every long while or so in PvP for ganks, and I guess it really isn't that big of a deal. And to be fair, anything that is an AoE is better for invaders anyways. This is probably just an overall, like another nice crowd control buff. Starcaller Cry. It's funny, I faced this over and over again. I might have used it once. Increase the speed of the follow-up attacks. Sure, fine. I mean, so long as you're not being spammed by these, it's never a problem. It's just the second you get caught, it's a little scary. Spinning Wheel. Increase attack generation speed. Added a roll and heavy attack cancel timing when using the skill. Giza's Wheel? The pizza cutter? I wonder what they say timing when using the skill. Does that mean like you can heavy attack cancel, like heavy attack into it? Let's see what this is all about. Oh, fuck. Are you kidding me? Can you switch? Oh, you can! And they made it like almost Bloodborne-esque in that sense that you can do the combo straight into a heavy attack. This is nasty. Fix the bug where the Scarlet Rot status buildup was not properly reflected when giving the Ansper Rapier cold affinity. I heard about this. I ended up reading about this. So, my understanding is that above +5, you just get nothing out of it. You get like no rot. And then I think it was like at +5, the rot buildup was gigantic. And I wish I knew about this sooner because that would have been fun to mess with. I still don't like this weapon though. This is stupid weapon. It should be somber. You shouldn't be able to infuse it. I fixed a bug where the Scarlet Rot status buildup was not properly reflected when giving the Rotten Great Axe a blood affinity. I wonder if that's the same thing. I can't say for sure if I've seen anybody ever use this weapon. Fixed a bug where some attacks of the Partisan, Death Ritual Spear, and Lucerne had unexpected physical attack scaling. I'm hoping that means it does more. I hope it doesn't mean less. Fixed a bug where Knight Rider Glaive did not increase the damage of horseback attacks. I did not even know it did this until like reading this in the morning. It makes sense considering the lore though. Fixed a bug where Duelist Great Axe and Rotten Great Axe did not increase the damage of charge attacks. Wow, that's rough. That would have sucked. I don't use them, but I'd be pissed if these didn't do shit. Fixed a bug with a War Battalion Talisman did not increase the power of some incantations. Oh fuck, is that supposed to actually affect incantations? I thought that was one of the... Okay, well, it makes logical sense, it just usually doesn't make FromSoft sense. This means that Grail's War probably is going to have that effect. If it didn't already, I don't know. Fixed a bug that reduced the power of some skills while under the Golden Vow effect. I've heard this, I don't know which, but that's funny. I wonder what under the hood was making that happen. I wonder which skills. I didn't really use Golden Vow that often. Fixed a bug that caused the effects of Determination and Royal Knight's Resolve skills when casted from a left-handed weapon to be added to the other skill casted with a right-handed weapon. Oh shit. So this is probably stacking with all the other random buffs. I bet somebody was doing Determination and Royal Knight's Resolve on 2 weapons, doing a jump attack with a bleed weapon and just demolishing somebody because more and more shit was stacking. It was probably getting both Royal Knight Resolve effects on one weapon, so you could potentially have Royal Knight's Resolve on a lighter weapon on your left. I could see like Royal Knight's Resolve left hand, Giant Hunt right, with like every other buff you can put on it. Fix the bug that reduced the critical power of right-handed weapons while having Determination or Royal Knight's Resolved active on a left-handed weapon. Do they arbitrarily reduce crit damage when you have Royal Knight's Resolve active on your weapon? I expected at some point there to be something like somebody parries, switches out their left hand, hits L2 again, casts Royal Knight's Resolve and does the riposte. This is one of those like theoretical things where it's like you should get big damage off of this, but I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do it. I'm sure people have tried. Maybe people just do it on a regular basis and I never see it. Fix the bug where status build-ups were unintentionally added to some weapon skills. I don't know where skill-wise where this is happening, but I do know spell-wise where this is happening, and they finally fixed it. Initially, it was like Fire's Deadly Sin, it just, applied whatever you had. So, a Death Blight, for example, from the, what is the name of that thing? The Clip Shuttle, and then whatever other buffs you can get. And then it was like, they didn't fix Blood Flame Blades, so you had the IGN build where everyone was running around bleeding everybody to death. And then the thing that I noticed that I'm surprised nobody else was doing, which was like, this also works for cold, because of course it does. Fix the bug where the power and special effects of a left-handed weapon can be added to a skill with a right-handed weapon. I believe this is the bug that allows you to skill swap stuff. So, like airwalking with Marika's hammer, and probably also the free cast that you would have from Hand of Melania. So AFK farmers now have free reign again, but at least now you don't get like super dunked by somebody doing like, there's something you could do where you'd like cast into Rivers of Blood, Serpent Hunt Rivers of Blood at a distance or something. I think will eventually go back and fix AFK farming. Like it might be just a harder fix because they have to do terrain changes or like bigger multiplayer fixes. Fix a bug that caused an equipped sacrificial twig to be consumed when a player died in the Colosseum. Whoops. Fix the camera positioning when respawning in the Colosseum. I didn't have any issues, but I also could not get into the Colosseum after the first couple days. Dried up on PC. I think PS5's got a lot of people though. Fix the bug where a player could receive credit for a kill in the Colosseum when dying due to the death status effect, instead of the player who inflicted the status effect. The player who put all the effort into getting Deathblight to proc would be so pissed. It's like, you get credit for that shit. Improve stability in Coliseum matchmaking. Please, please, please let me connect to somebody for once. I want to do nasty shenanigans in the Coliseum. I just couldn't connect to anybody. Fix the bug related to the level correction when an invader used the Phantom Bloody Finger. Finally. This is not the core downscaling fix, but this fixes the no downscaling. This means now as an invader, because this is a big buff for invaders now, because now you can invade at low to mid level and actually use the Phantom Bloody Finger and not face phantoms who were just like, I'm level 60 and you're level 200 and I'm going to die now. Fix the bug that can cause disconnections with other players in certain locations during multiplayer. I was seeing this in Ray Lucaria, where people would run around a corner and just keep getting teleported back. PS4, fix the bug that occurred when using the finger saver. Luckily not me. But then again, the PS5 players who are playing on PS4 might have this as well, depending on whether or not it's the PS4 version or just the PS4 itself. Good for you people, I guess. No crashes, I guess, or minimal crashes. Fix the bug related to some enemies not rendering or behaving as expected. Maybe this will fix those invisible players. I hope. Well, it says some enemies. Maybe it's not players. So I don't know if I've seen this or not. I've seen invisible players a couple times. It's super rare. In Dark Souls 3, you'd see it all the time. Several performance improvements and other fixes. Well, I did just spend $1,700 on a PC upgrade with a more than $1,000 GPU on top of that and a $200 PSU. So this could apply to me, but it does not. Not anymore. Better performance basically means getting more people into the game, which we desperately need. Because I think the system requirements in PC are so high that who's playing this on PC? All right, I think that's probably all I really have to say about the patch notes. I'm actually really curious to go in and then see how I feel after the fact for for maybe a week or so, and then review the patch notes and kind of see how I felt about these changes. That might be another video worth making.